Making a floating bar chart in Microsoft Excel is a great way to visually represent distribution between entities. Viewing the distribution of related values from one entity to another is a frequent request, and that's where Microsoft Excel floating bar charts can help. Instead of starting from the x-axis, the low and high values seem to float above the x-axis. They're easy to create in Excel, but the route isn't intuitive. In fact, the floating bar option is practically hidden. Once you find it, the placement makes sense. You create a line chart and then the up-down bars element. In this video, I'll show you first generate a low and high value for each entity. Then we'll represent those values in a floating bar chart. Along the way, you'll learn about the MINIFS and MAXIFS functions. A floating bar chart is a visual comparison of distribution. In other words, not all the charted value begin at the same place on the x-axis, which typically represents 0 or some other shared lowest measurement. For instance, the simple data set displays a minimum and maximum sales value for a few employees. A typical bar chart would start at 0 for each person, but we want to chart both values. By starting each bar at the minimum point on the y-axis, you create what appears to be floating bars. The benefit is the ability to compare high and low values for each series, in this case, each person. Now that we have an idea of what a floating bar chart is, let's look at the values we plan to chart. In this scenario, we won't be charting the table data. Instead, you'll be charting the minimum and maximum values for each person. In our case, the minimum and maximum values represent the bottom and top of each person's bar, respectively. So we're going to calculate the values in H3 to L4 using the MINIFS and MAXIFS functions, respectively. These two functions use the following syntax, where min or max range identifies the values you're checking. Criteria range 1 is the conditional range. In our case, the criteria range is the personnel column. And criteria 1 is the condition. In our case, the condition is the person the values belong to. Alright, let's enter the following function into H3. Equal MINIFS parentheses. The minimum range are the values from C3 to C12 in absolute reference. The criteria range are one of the names of the personnel column from D3 to D12, again in absolute reference. And we close the formula with the person the values belong to, so it's Andreas, and that's cell H2. Press enter. Good stuff. Let's copy the formula to the right so we have the minimum values. We will follow exactly the same steps to calculate the maximum values for personnel using the MAXIFS. Let's do it quickly. Very cool. Copy also this formula to the remaining columns. Both functions allow a condition. In this case, the condition is the person. The function returns a value from the value column when the corresponding personnel value matches the value in the header row about the functions. Absolute references are necessary. If they don't work properly after copying, check for these absolute references before any further troubleshooting. Once you have the low and high values for each personnel, you are ready to chart them. Excel doesn't offer a floating bar chart of its own, and finding the option isn't intuitive. First, we'll create a line chart, and that chart type offers floating bars. Okay, let's start creating a floating bar chart from the minimum and maximum values. The first step is to select cells H2 to L4. These are the low and high values that we want to compare across employees. Click the Insert tab from Ribbon. Now click the Line Chart button. I will choose the first two-dimension line chart. Nice. Let's move it and resize it a bit. I think it's okay now. So once you're inserting the chart into the sheet, click the chart elements icon in the top right corner. At this point, the chart has two elements, lines and bars. Do you see this option up and down bars? Let's click on it. Here are the floating bars. Let's right-click one with the floating bars, for example, the first one. Choose Format Up Bars, which opens the Format Up Bars pane. In the Fill options, click Gradient Fill and change the direction to linear down. As you can see in the gradient stops, control the light blues on the bottom and switches you to almost white. I want the red to be at the bottom and green to be at the top. So let's click the first stop and change the color to a light green. Cool. And let's click the last stop and choose a red color. Finally, for the other stops, I will choose yellow and orange. The green and red gradient in the bars is also subjective. In fact, they're a tad ugly, but I wanted you to see how easy it is to have two colors in a gradient fill. You could use any color, gradient, or texture. I also choose a thin blue outline from border options. I could leave the chart as is, as a combo chart, but I want to remove the line so it's strictly a floating bar chart, right? Now, right-click this line and choose Format Data Series. This will open the corresponding pane. Click Fill and Line at the top. Then choose No Line in the Line section. Let's repeat the same steps for the other line. The chart is nearly done. Click the series legend at the bottom center of the chart window and press Delete. I will add some title text, which isn't strictly necessary for this example. Let's type Sales Comparison. And I will remove the outer line of the chart. Go to Format tab, Shape Outline, No Outline. Good stuff. The relationship between the people represented is obvious in this chart, and that's why a floating bar chart is a good choice for this type of comparison. With a glance, you can see the highest and lowest sales of personnel. Before we wrap up, if you've enjoyed this sneak peek into the power of Excel charts, you're going to love what's in store for you in our Excel Charts and Visualizations Masterclass course. Over 10,000 professionals have transformed their Excel visualization skills with our course. So whether you're starting out or looking to sharpen your Excel skills, this course is going to be your ticket to becoming an Excel pro. Check out the link in the description to start learning today. Thank you for watching till the end. Thank you for being here, and don't forget to like this video if you found some value in it. And do subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, and I'll catch you in the next video.